We're live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. Our lead stories this hour. More than 600 new COVID-19 cases as of today as health experts push for another lockdown. We go back to the Gais Municipal Hospital from where we brought you the story of COVID patients gasping for breath. Today, we focus on the doctors breaking their backs as they plead for us all to take the COVID protocols seriously before we run out of doctors to take care of us. 34 students of the Xavier Manor Seminary got quarantined as 2 other students test positive for COVID-19 and authorities try to calm the student population. We go across the country as we confirm the regional case counts and adherence to the protocols. Also coming up, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagwin settles the debate on leadership of the House, announcing Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu as Majority Leader and Haruna Idrisu as Minority Leader. He, however, explains Mensah leads the majority group and not the caucus. We'll tell you how the minority has been taking this development. And the Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. Join us on DSTV 421, GoTV 144. We're streaming live, remember, on YouTube and our other social media handles. Send us a WhatsApp on 0540109009. My name is Gifty Andropia. This is the Pulse. Please be my guest. You're welcome to the show. Let me take you through the details now. As you know, the numbers of the COVID-19 infections are rising steadily. Now, 2 students of the Xavier Manor Seminary have tested positive for COVID-19 and are receiving treatment at the Upper West Regional Hospital's treatment center. 34 other students have been quarantined in one of the dormitories of the school. Rector of the seminary, Reverend Father Pamphilio Tengan, urged parents who have their wards there not to panic as the situation, he said, is under control. Correspondent Rafiq Salam will be joining me shortly live from Wa, but first, here is a report he sent earlier.
Authorities at the Xavier Manor Seminary stood motionless and in pensive mood. Their thoughts and prayers are with 2 of their students who have been reported to have contracted COVID-19 disease and recuperating at the Upper West Regional Hospital's treatment center. Rector of the Xavier Manor Seminary, Reverend Father Pamphilio Tengan, recounted what transpired.
It is true that 2 students have been confirmed with COVID-19 in the seminary. One of them complained about ill health and was sent down on Monday in the night. He was given treatment and returned to the school with the priest that sent him down. But then in the evening of Tuesday, a team came from the Municipal Health Directorate that they had tested our student and he was positive, and they were coming to send him to the isolation center. They didn't want to bring in the ambulance here to frighten the other students, so we had to get the student out of campus to join the ambulance and go to the isolation center. That was on Tuesday night. Yesterday in the morning, another student reported to the clinic and with symptoms. So I drove him down to the municipal hospital. He was tested and he was confirmed positive also. So the 2 are now at the regional isolation center.
The 2 students hail from the Wa municipality and Hambele in the Lamuse district. One of them had a family member he was close to who one time tested positive, but he did not.
One is from Wa. The other one came from Hamele, but is from Burkina, but he has relatives in Hamele and Tamale. So from Hamele, he traveled to Tamale. before coming back. And he already had a member in the family who tested positive. And they tested him and he was negative. And when he came, the signs then came up and he was confirmed.
Reverend Father Pamphilio Tengan said 34 students who came into contact with the 2 students were counseled before being isolated in 2 separate dormitories. He called on parents who had their wards in the school not to panic as they are in control of the situation.
Luckily for us, the Deputy Regional Health Director for Public Health, he was here with our nurses and the other team members, plus the Catholic Executive Health Director. We spoke to the students on the need of isolation, and right now they are in their dormitories. They are not mixing with the students.
Ahafo Region's Director of Health Services in charge of public health, Dr. Richard Wudasemi, who visited the school, commended the students for their cooperation, pledging that they were not going to leave any stone unturned in their bid to fight the disease.
We can for now say that the 2 cases do not appear to be epidemiologically linked. They may have contracted the virus from different environments, and so we are looking at that possibility. We would be establishing that in the coming days. But to break the transmission chain, we have identified the quarantine center as spacious enough that will be able to accommodate all those who came into contact with the 2 positive cases. The contact listing has been done, and a number of the students have been identified, and since yesterday they have been in quarantine.
Authorities at the Manor Seminary here have allocated 2 structures, one in front of me, another one behind me, to take care of the 34 students that they think have come into contact with the 2 students. In the next few hours, they will move to a much bigger place where it will contain all of them. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Well, that report was filed by correspondent Rafik Salam, who's now joining me, as I said earlier. Rafik, let's begin with an update. Is there anything developing on the back of this story?
Latest news regarding the St. Francis Xavier Manor Seminary has to do with the 2 students who were admitted at the Ahafo Regional Hospital. And so the latest is that there's a 3rd student that they have tested, and by the results, when came out, it was negative. And so that is the latest. But the 34 students currently are being quarantined at a more spacious, more ventilated place, dormitory at the school.
Let's talk about the school authorities and what they've done on the back of this. Has the place been fumigated at least? Did they give you that information?
Yes, yesterday when the incident happened, you know, the 34 students that came into contact with 2 students were initially isolated and then quarantined at 2 separate dormitories. But they secured a much bigger, more spacious, more ventilated place at the school, and they asked the students themselves to clean it, after which it was fumigated. And so later the students were allowed to get into this particular place. But they have also introduced a whole lot of safety health protocols at the school. The wearing of nose masks at the school, in and around the school, was mandatory. And also, wherever you move into the school, you can also spot Veronica buckets around there. You know, in that school, the St. Francis Xavier Manor Seminary, they have a primary school and also JHS there. And so, by extension, those students in the premises have also been asked to follow those rules. So they have come out with several measures in order to contain
the virus or the disease in the place.
I'm still curious, Rafiq. Did they specifically say whether or not they have fumigated the area after this?
What actually happened, I can't say for now whether the place was fumigated or not, but we were told that after they did the cleaning, the place will be fumigated. I haven't gotten that information yet.
Okay.
But the latest information that we can tell you that was about the test student who was tested, whose results have now become negative.
Okay.
And also there are other people in the region in terms of the COVID-19 who have contracted the disease, which we have gotten the latest figures. So let me give you a regional picture of the COVID situation in the Upper West region. We have as many as 161 persons who have the disease, and also out of the 161 cases, we have 38 active cases in the region, and now 4 people are dead from the disease in the Upper West region. So moving to the 38 active cases in the region, 16 of them are from the Nadoli district, 21 of them are from the Wa municipality, and 1 from the Lora municipality. So these are the figures, regional figures in the Upper West region regarding COVID-19.
Okay, I'll say a very big thanks to you. I was just going to go to those figures which you have done already. In terms of adherence, Rafiq, what can you report to the protocols?
I can report you that in terms of adhering to the safety protocols in the Upper West region, they have been thrown to the dogs. And the people are even doing it with laconic bravery and sometimes arrogance. You get a place like the Wa KJT or like the Wa market, the people are thrown into dogs. You can count as many as 50 people. Out of 50 people, 1 person will be wearing a nose mask, which isn't good enough. Yesterday, I tried to speak to the GPL2 about the situation. They said they were going to hold meetings in the next few days to come out with measures for drivers and other passengers who come into the KJT so that they will adhere to these protocols. But remember, let me also tell you that in terms of the work KJT, as big as the place is, which you can measure as many as about 10 acres, only 1 Veronica bucket was spotted in the area. About 10 acres wide, only 1 Veronica bucket and no soap I spotted in my rounds yesterday. So in terms of adhering to the COVID safety protocols here in the Upper West region, isn't the best. Even the other people who are even having the nose masks, but they will not wear. Some riding motorbikes, they prefer to put the nose mask beneath their seats and sit on. And so when they are inquired, when you ask about them their nose mask, then they will quickly remove it and put the mask there. But the people of the Upper West region, what they need to know, what they need now is for the police or other security agencies to come hard on them to ensure that they follow these rules.
And that's one of the, perhaps the final question I'll ask, Rafiq. We've seen in Central Region yesterday there were some arrests in the here in the Greater Accra region. About 2 days ago there were some arrests. Are the police in the Upper West region following suit, or from what you say, it looks like nothing like that is happening?
Yesterday I spoke with the Upper West Region Police Command talking about the public relations officer, Chief Inspector Gideon Boateng. And he told me that the police already are out, they are in town, they are moving from one place to the other, and then they are ensuring that these protocols are observed. But I made him to know that I have been at the market for close about 3-4 hours. I haven't spotted any policeman around that particular area, and he told me that the people are trying to, the passengers or the people in that post region are playing hide and seek with the police. Okay. Immediately the police are spot on. What they normally do is that they put on the nose mask when the police leaves the area, and then they will remove it. And so I said yes, the police are doing their best, but the people are trying to play hide and seek with them.
Thank you very much. Rafiq Salam joined us from Upper West Region, where 34 students at a seminary have been quarantined. 2 of them have tested positive for COVID-19. Let's move to the Ashanti Region, where pupils of Asokori Mampong Roman Catholic Primary School are challenged in adhering to social distancing protocols to beat COVID-19 due to their poor classroom infrastructure. The deteriorated shelter exposes the children to the hazard of crowding in the classrooms. Danaya Ojima reports on this condition. He'll be joining us as well.
2 years ago, a shelter was raised to reduce congestion at Asokori Mampong RC Primary A. This shelter has classrooms, 7 classes 5, 3 and 2. Each class is made up of more than 30 pupils studying in this temporary structure. Portions of the roofing sheets supporting the old wooden walls were ripped off within the long COVID-19 school break. To escape extreme weather, the children get crowded in the middle of the class. Others have to endure extreme heat during afternoon classes. The situation in the school impedes adherence to COVID-19 safety protocols. Deputy Director of the Ghana Education Service, Anthony Boateng, spoke about the state of such school structures.
You know, and as much as we need dedicated teachers and the children to be able to learn, they also need to create a very good working environment for the teachers and the children to teach and learn. There's a need for everybody to get involved. Government cannot do it alone. Individuals cannot do it alone. We need the support and cooperation of everybody.
Across this compound sits another structure for the Asokori Mampong RC Primary B. Conditions here are similar to what persists at the Primary A. Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah says an action will have to be taken to deal with the plight of the students.
When you identify such problems, we sit down and talk. This is not the last meeting. This is the beginning. At the end of the day, I'll meet with the Regional Director of Ghana Education Service, who has been very, very cooperative in all these things. And then we identify the problems in general. I don't normally like you solving problems in bits. So we go and sit down. She'll compare all the needed infrastructure in the basic schools. And then we will write a letter to Ministry of Education for solution.
The Efijase Methodist School in the Seche East District of Ashanti had similar challenges. But the fortunes of these students have changed after a family reconstructed a 4-unit classroom block for the school. Thomas Nyakodankwa speaks for the family.
The church showed us a dilapidated building, which was not, it looked like a poultry farm actually when we came and saw it. So we decided that, okay, we will pull it and build this for the kids in the name of our mother. But along the line, in the planning stage, our senior brother passed away, and subsequent another brother also passed away. So we combined the 3 and said we will dedicate this to their memory. So it's in memory of our mother, Ofurua, and our 2 brothers, I.K. Dankwa and Same Dankwa, who actually was a sub-chief.
From Kumasi for JoyNews, Nanaya Ojima reporting.
Nanaya is joining me right now from Kumasi. Nanaya, let's take a look at the numbers, first of all, in the region. Let's start from there. What can you report as far as the contribution of the Ashanti region to the national total?
As at the moment, I do not have the specifics, but what the health professionals are telling us is that the numbers keep rising and it is contributing to the fast appreciation of the national figures so far.
We know that not all you pick up in the course of the reporting actually feeds into the final report. Take us through a little bit of the backstory to what we've just seen.
So what is happening at the Asokori Mampong Primary A and B is that the pupils in there are forced to ignore social distancing protocols, especially in the afternoons. When we went to film this report, it was actually in the morning. So the students were not feeling the impact of the extreme weather conditions. But from what I learned in the school, in the afternoons, especially when the sun is scorching, these students have to find a way of escaping the scorch from the sun. So they concentrate at one point in the classroom, and this is contributing to the disregard for social distancing protocols in these classrooms. Other classrooms in the school are also having similar challenges with space. So most of these students in the classrooms are forced to disregard the social distancing protocol, and also the teachers are having a very difficult time ensuring that these students do comply with all the protocols of COVID-19, especially nose mask wearing protocol.
And obviously, this is just one story that represents the story of several other schools. Can you give us a mental picture of the situation where you are?
So in schools like the Opokuwari Basic School, there are similar challenges due to the numbers in these classrooms. What authorities did was that they had to create some sheds or some tents out on the school premises for these students. And most of these students were, the classes were divided with some students learning under these tents. But the objective of to achieve these objectives, because most of the students had to sit close to each other because of the challenge they had with furniture. So even though some schools are making some alternative arrangement, the problem still persists because some of them do not have furniture to encourage the social distancing that they are working to achieve. So if you come to the Ashanti region, most of the public schools especially are having a difficult time implementing all of these protocols, especially social distancing protocols, and also the disregard for COVID-19 protocols on the streets and in the homes are also affecting the observance of these protocols in school, especially when children are commuting to school. They disregard the social distancing protocol and also the nose mask wearing protocols because a lot of the people outside, the public, are not adhering to the protocols.
So it looks like same story from the Upper West region. Anaya, thank you very much. Let's take a look at what is happening in the Western region, where Natalia Kwanzaa is standing by for us. Hello, Ina.
Hello, Gifty.
Ina, do you have the figures for your region?
Yes, so currently we have 194 active cases in the Western region. We have the STMA contributing 58, the Efia Fesminti Municipal Assembly 12, Taka 5, Wasa East 1, Elembele 1, and then Wasa Amenfi East, Ahanta West, we also have 1. And then when you come to suspected cases, they have 73 of it, and then out of it, they contacted 4 persons. As of yesterday, 21st of January, 3 people had died. This is from the Regional Health Directorate.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, it looks to me like we can delve a little bit into the dynamics. Ina, the previous time, I mean, the earlier when we started recording COVID-19 cases in your area, it looked as if the Takwa area had a few more numbers than they do right now.
Yes, it have a few numbers now, and the STM, that's the secondary Takwa metropolis, is leading compared to this. Yes, but as to why this is happening, the Regional Health Directorate have not stated it. But as we have been talking about for the past weeks, I've told our viewers that people are really not adhering to the protocols, even though that the president has said continuously that they should adhere to it. The police in the region who are supposed to enforce, when I contacted them, they said what they are doing is sensitizing. They are not arresting anyone. They are sensitizing, and they are asking them to wear it when they see you, but they are not causing any arrest. So the whole from Monday to now, what they are doing is sensitization, asking people to wear it. So next week, they'll start the arrest in the Western region.
Actually sounds good and sounds like a plan because first of all there's the issue about space and where to keep the people who are arrested, because you can arrest as many as 100 people in a day, then you're going to have to make provisions for that. But Ina, how do people feel about the fact that there seems to be a second wave, as we're calling it, which is even harsher than what we saw earlier. If you have had any engagement, with people in the area, how do they feel about this?
Well, people are worried. I mean, you talk to some people and it really seems very worried, especially when you go to our market places. I mean, the central business district. This is one place that people really talk about, that when you get there at this moment, the social distancing protocol is not being observed. The traders in there are not observing the nose mask, the face mask wearing protocol. Hand washing has also become a challenge there. So when you speak to them, they are worried. But there is also a section of the public who believe that this is just a fallacy, it's a mirage. It's just the way some people, they say, want to spend unnecessary money because they think that during the election, in the heat of the election, no one did talk about the fact that there is a surge in COVID-19, but how come right after the election and after Christmas, they are saying that there is a surge? Most people say they don't believe it. Was the other fraction that I have been speaking to also express concern of being very worried.
Anything that our viewers ought to know about the situation in the Western region, do share with us. Otherwise, as usual, that's it for me. Okay, looks like Ina was saying something there. Ina, are you saying something? Okay.
No, Gifty. I said that's it.
Very well. Thank you. Natalia Kwanzaa is our Western Regional correspondent. As you heard her say, they have quite a number of cases there, with the Sekondi Takoradi municipality recording about 194 alone, just that area. And it is actually leading in the region. Let's head to the Bono region. Let's see how what the situation is over there. Precious Semevo is our correspondent. Precious, do you have the figures?
Yes, Gifty. So, Bono region, according to the Health Directorate, they are saying that 648, that is the current figure in the Bono region as at now, with only 3 active cases. So, out of the 648, we have 3 cases that is being managed by the Health Authority. Now, according to the Ghana Health Service Directorate in the region, they have new results, new updates that they are yet to channel to the national office. And because of that, they are unable to give those figures out to me. But information I have picked from the directorate indicates that out of the new figures that hopefully by the close of day today or tomorrow thereabout includes 1 death. So officially, the Bono region has recorded 1 death as at now. But as at now, whilst we wait for the new figures to be updated, we have 648 cases with only 3 active cases that is being managed now.
Out of these figures, you say, I may have missed it. Did you talk about any death?
Yes, one death has been recorded.
Yeah.
But according to the Health Directorate, that is part of the new updates that they are yet to provide for the national office.
Very well.
So they are waiting to provide that update to the national office. But whilst we wait for that to be done, probably later today, we have 648 active cases, with 3 of them being managed at the health facilities in the Bono region.
Right, 3, just 3 is pretty manageable. And I was asking the other correspondent about adherence to the protocols, given the renewed attention or the renewed awareness that we're all supposed to be having at this point, and the fact that the President himself has asked police to crack down on people who don't adhere to these protocols. What can you report as far as that is concerned from there?
Yeah, so Gifty, I would say that the adherence, particularly with the wearing of the face mask, it's a bit encouraging. Now, let me explain. I remember during the Unitide, that is exactly about a month ago, I was standing at this same joint, Sunyani, the central business district of Sunyani. And if you look around, then the wearing of the face mask was non-existent, I must say. But as of now, I can say that about 7 out of 15 people are wearing their face mask. And I can also see one or two police officials. Once in a while, they accost people by the roadside and ask them why they are not wearing their face mask. This school girl, about 15, 16-year-old girl, was accosted by the police, and her reason for not wearing the face mask is that she was just sent by her mother to buy something from the central business district. So she forgot to put on her face mask, and the police asked her to go back and then put that on. But let me quickly also add that I think the police can do better than what they are doing now. Board to town, the central business district, I was the only person wearing face mask in that car. And interestingly, we passed through a police checkpoint on the Abyssine Sunyani stretch, and the police officials were just looking on, and I was surprised. They just asked the car to move. I believe some of them are trying, but a lot more needs to be done by our security people, especially people entering the central business district. They will probably have to do more by way of checking those people. But the school children, I must say, when they are in school, it is encouraging. The teachers try their best to manage them. But the moment they close from school and they are on their way going home, it is no one checks them, and they just keep the nose mask beneath their chin. And that is also something that the authorities, the parents themselves, and all stakeholders will have to come on board to ensure that the face masks are worn at any particular time when you are out of your various homes.
Semevo there reporting that it looks like people are taking the COVID-19 protocols a bit more seriously in the Brong region, although there have been a few incidents where people were breaching it. Well, the NCCE has issued a statement. In that statement, they talk about how disturbed the organization is about how we're flouting the protocols. But let me engage Albert Sori, our correspondent in the Upper East region. Albert, let's begin with the figures. I'm sure you have them.
Yes, Gifty. So we have... Hello, Gifty, can you hear me?
I do. Please go ahead.
Yes, so in the Upper East region, we have 89 active cases at the moment. I just checked with the Regional Public Health Promotion Officer, and he gave me this figure. He says that this was actually the figure, the last one that was officially released on the 14th of this month. As we speak, there hasn't been an update from on that particular figure. So we have 89 active cases as we speak in the Upper East region. He also says that this number increased from 33 just before the year began. So it's a very sharp increase if you look at the difference. Now, he attributes this to the fact that previously we didn't have much information coming in as far as the testing was concerned, because they were doing the testing in Tamale and Kumasi. So it took a longer time for the health directorates to be able to get the results of people who were being tested for COVID-19. But now we have a testing center in our regional hospital here in the Upper East. And then at the Nabrongo Health Research Center, they are doing some testing there as well. So they are able to test quickly and get figures. So that is it as far as the numbers are concerned. What he says is that since 14th, he has not had any official figures yet as far as testing and what the latest situation is in the Upper East region as far as our active cases are concerned. But 89, that is what he was able to give me for now.
It's a stark contrast to what is happening in the Brong region, where they have only 3 active cases, but and that's even a figure that has not yet been updated. So it's pretty worrying. Do people in the communities get the sense how dire the situation is?
Yeah, so again, just this morning, I was talking to one of the regional health promotion officers. She actually takes it upon herself to do a lot of education as far as this COVID-19 issue is concerned. Now, one of the things I got from my conversation with her is that even as we speak, there are people in the Upper East region who still think that COVID-19 is a hoax. They don't believe that the virus exists. There are people who think that for them, God is protecting them and there's no way they are going to get it. There are people who only put on the mask when they feel somebody is complaining about it or people are watching. So it's still a very big problem. But generally, you get the sense that people are listening to the fact that they're talking about the fact that the cases are increasing and all of that. But when you go to town, you don't get the sense that people are actually protecting themselves because very few people wear their face masks in the Ahafo East region. Now, one of the things from last week that I observed was that the weather last week was very warm, actually. So most people tend to take their face masks off in the afternoon when the sun is warm and they are sweating and all of that. People complain that it becomes difficult for them to breathe easily when the mask is wet from their sweat. So a lot of people tended to take off their mask. Now today, again, I was in town. Today, the weather is hazy because of the Harmattan. There's a lot of dust in the atmosphere. So that is also encouraging, or if you like, forcing people to wear their masks so that they don't necessarily inhale dust. But as far as the issue of COVID-19 is concerned, if you observe in our region, it appears that people are still not really taking it serious. More than half of the people don't seem to be adhering to COVID-19 protocols. And I heard you ask other people about, my other colleagues about the police and
yes,
what they are doing. Again, I was doing some checks. I realized that in the Ahafo East region so far, I haven't seen police actually taking people on or forcing people to adhere to protocols. This afternoon, I was returning from Brong where I went to do a shoot. I got to a police checkpoint on the road and they were stopping people and checking for whether their motorbikes were registered or not. I was one of the people that were stopped. I was wearing my face mask. The police didn't ask me anything. But there were two women in front of me on a motorbike who were wearing helmets, but they were not wearing face masks. And I did not see the police ask them anything about the face masks at all.
Well, I guess that the helmets covers the nostrils and the mouths.
No, these are the helmets that don't come with the enclosure in front. These ones are just the simple ones. So, their faces were just showing, So I'm yet to see. We have this regional media and police platform. So I'll be engaging the police PRO to see whether very soon they will be going to town and checking on whether people are adhering to protocols. But so far, I have not seen it.
Very well. So far, we've seen some arrests in Accra, arrests in Tema, arrests in Cape Coast as well. We've heard of sensitization first in the Western region, which I think is a great idea. We'll see what Upper West will do. Albert, thank you. Upper East, I should have said. Albert's correspondent for Albert Sorry is our correspondent for Upper East region, where they have 89 cases. We'll be joined by the NCCE, so we find out how involved are they in terms of disseminating the information that is required to create the awareness that we really need to create right now, especially in the regions. But let me take you to Kolebu. The construction of an infectious disease treatment center over there, which is the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, has stalled after workers abandoned the site. JoyNews' visit to the premises revealed key electrical work is yet to conclude. A foreman at the site tells Daniel Dazi the plastering and other finishing works have been held up for that reason. The facility was scheduled to be completed 30 days after work commenced nearly 10 months ago. This has left the 8-bed treatment facility at the nation's premier referral center overburdened as Ghana's COVID-19 case count rises. Here is a report Daniel Dazi put together.
Soon after Ghana recorded its first few cases of COVID-19, it was announced that a 50-bed infectious diseases facility was being constructed here at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. close to a year after construction began, this facility is yet to be completed. This is contrary to announcements by authorities then that it would take 30 days for this facility to be finished, so it would help in the fight against COVID-19 in the country. As the number of positive cases in Ghana begin to hit 200 per day, the attention of the public has been drawn back to this facility, which is far from complete. So where I'm standing currently is the doorway for the main entrance to the facility. Some of the plastering has been done. You can see there's space there for some of the electronic fittings in there. But you walk inside and you realize that a lot of the plastering has not been done. Now, we've been speaking to some of the workers who are here. They tell us that the crew of workers who were supposed to wire the facility came to work on the 24th, went on break, came back on the 1st of January, went on break, came back on the 7th of January, and that's the last time they reported. It's expected that they will come back to work sometime this week, and after that, after they are done with the wiring, then the plastering for the inside can be completed. There's also the roofing, which has not been completed in the inside. As you can see, the ceilings have not been fitted in. Again, we are being told that the workers who are in charge of this part of the work will do their work by this week so that the construction can continue. The empty spaces also for the doors indicate that there's still some work to be done there. We are being told that the doors are being constructed off-site, and they are waiting for those contractors to also bring in the doors so that they can fit them in. So that was the main entrance, the main arrival hall or the reception. These look like bathrooms to an untrained eye. You see the plumbing fittings in there. There are a number as well here, a number of cubicles in here. You can see this space looks like, a space for sinks. And in there, looks like space for WCs in there, about 4 of them. So, all in all, this is a facility that when operational should be able to really serve the general public. You can see there, unfortunately, some of these iron rods are rusting. It's been a while since they were planted there, as you can see. So we are looking through to really be able to report to you the extent of work that has been done here at the infectious diseases facility, which is part of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital complex. This is a 50-bed facility which has been on the books for close to a year at least when the construction officially began. When we visited here in March, the field was being cleared for the construction itself to begin. And it was expected that it should be finished in some 30 days or in the shortest possible time. Remember, more than 50,000 positive cases of COVID-19 have been recorded in the country since then. And this is a key weapon in the arsenal of government in the fight against this disease. We are speaking to some of the supervisors for the gang of workers here. They are confident that within a month all of this work can be done. But then again, they are unsure that the requisite funds will be released in time, and also that the workers will return to site so that this facility can quickly come be operational and help in the fight against COVID. As you can see, it's much larger than the current facility, which is seen to COVID-19 patients, which is full. It's an 8-bed facility directly opposite this one, and currently doctors there tell us that it is completely full, and they are currently treating the average of about 20 patients every single day. Most worrying about it is that 2/3 of the number of patients they treat there, according to our sources, are medical personnel, that is doctors and nurses, who are working on the front line in the fight against COVID-19 in the country. Hospital authorities did not speak to us, but we have sources who are telling us that as soon as the doors are done and the wiring is done, this is work that can be completed in the shortest possible time. The question remains about the funding that must be released from the Ministry of Health, which would, of course, be the agency acting on behalf of government to ensure that this work is done in the shortest possible time. They were unable to tell us why the work has delayed from March 2020 till now, where so many lives could have been saved, so many persons could have been treated if this facility was complete. For Joy News, this is Daniel Daze at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
Daniel Dazi put together that story. Let's talk to Director of Communications and Corporate Affairs at the NCCE, Joyce Afutu, who is joining us via Zoom. Madam, thank you for your time. Good afternoon. You are muted. I almost said you are zoomed. You are muted. Kindly unmute for me.
Can you hear me now?
I do hear you. Let's try this again. I've seen the statement that you issued today. In this statement, you essentially say that you are disturbed. Wrap it up for me in a summary so those who have not seen the statement can understand what your position is.
Yes, in a summary, I must say that the cases are increasing, and then the NCC is urging the citizens of Ghana to adhere strictly to the safety protocols so that we can protect ourselves and also save lives. Because we realize that the only thing or the only vaccine that we can use now is the observance of the safety protocols. That is the washing of our hands, wearing a face mask, sanitizing our hands regularly with alcohol-based sanitizer, not massing up. And if we don't have serious things going in town, we have to stay at home. So we are urging the Ghanaian populace to adhere strictly to the protocol so that we can help curb the pandemic.
Referring to, I'll just read this line. It says the NCCE urges operators of transport unions, schools, chop bar, restaurants, markets, faith-based organizations, event organizers, recreational and entertainment centers to institute and insist, which you embolden in putting caps on strict adherence to safety measures. I want to find out how the NCCE is reaching out to these organizations directly.
But we are sensitizing the general public in addition to transport owners and schools and all that. Our district and regional offices across the country are engaging with these people we've mentioned here so that they can all ensure that we observe the protocols. You go to several institutions and you realize that some of the things are there, but they are not enforcing them. So we are asking that just as we all were doing at the peak of the pandemic, we must continue to do that so that we can reduce the number of cases and the number of deaths.
The last time I spoke to the head of the NCCE right here in the studio, and she indicated to me the challenges that the NCC has had to face trying to reach out with information because you did not have the budget. Has that been taken care of in this era?
Yeah, I must say yes, because during the COVID era in June, we reached out to the presidency and we're giving resources. The COVID-19 National Trust Fund also gave us some resources. So we're able to reach out to the citizens of Ghana with a message on the need for them to adhere to the protocols. And we all took it upon ourselves, and every Ghanaian did. But it appears that getting to the end of the year, and with the easing of the restrictions, Ghanaians also gave a breather to observing the protocols. That is why we are where we are now. So we are asking that everybody, every Ghanaian, we must cherish our safety and ensure that we observe the protocols. So we have the resources, and our regional and district offices are also doing their bit with respect to sensitization.
I mean, it will be interesting for us to perhaps follow NCCE's regional and district district officers to find out how they do it. Perhaps people can have, you know, an idea of how it can be improved. But give us a mental picture, since we are not there. How exactly do they do it? What do they tell people?
But what they tell people is that, you know, at the regional level, they meet at the regional capitals, visiting people that we can visit now. But with the cases rising, most of our activities, we are looking at public announcements. Okay. We even have our jingles and other things playing in selected media houses. And we're also reaching out to schools and artisans and the faith-based organizations. So when we go, what exactly we tell them that COVID is real. Those who think that COVID is not real, they should know that it is real, because the whole world, we cannot all not lie that nothing exists, and we are all feigning that something exists. COVID is real, and people are getting infected, people are dying. And we are telling people to wear the mask when they are stepping out of home. They should sanitize their hands regularly. They should not mask up. Yesterday, I was in Mokala, and I was talking to a gentleman who has just put the mask under his chin. So I was telling him that we should weigh the cost-benefit analysis of having to contract the disease and how we manage the disease to wearing and not contract the disease. And he said, he's up this morning, he doesn't even know, he doesn't have money to even feed. And how is he going to buy 1 CD worth of masks to wear? So I explained things to him, and then he understood me. So when we go on the ground, that is what we tell people, that the disease is real, we need to protect ourselves. We also add the need for people to also exercise regularly and also eat immune-boosting foods so that they can boost their immunity and will not contract the disease. So these are some of the things we engage the populace on.
I mean, I know that the NCC is always challenged in terms of finances, but perhaps for this guy, for a guy like that, a free mask won't be bad at all. So maybe as your officers go out, they carry some free masks as well. And perhaps we can also ask the public to support the NCC with some of these free masks that when you go to the ground, you can share with those who cannot necessarily afford it. My final question will be...
Yes, we welcome that. If people have the mask and they give it to us, we can also distribute to the populace when we go to the ground.
Okay, well, I guess it's perhaps something that has just fallen on your lap that you can take it and run with it, hopefully. But my final question was whether or not you are employing the shock strategy to tell them. For the gentleman you engage, for example, who doesn't see the need and that you try to convince, you know, to weigh out the cost benefit, will you consider maybe employing the shock effect, letting them know the people that have died and maybe showing them pictures, gory pictures that can awaken their senses? Is that something you do as well?
Yes, we will do that. Even we have a video at the peak of the pandemic. We did a video at the Ga East hospital, which we have. So we will show it. And we also tell people about the sanctions that are in force, so that they will adhere to the COVID protocols. But what we want to add is that the enforcement agencies also enforce to serve as deterrent. We have heard, yes, we congratulate the effort of the Ghana Police Service that they have arrested some people. So they should prosecute so that others will know that, yes, if I flout the law, I'll be dealt with. And that will encourage people. I must also say that now a lot of people are adhering now, but we are not getting the whole populace doing that. So we will continue to urge Ghanaians to ensure that we observe the protocols, particularly the wearing of masks and not masking up, and also social distancing at wherever we converge, so that we will not contract the disease. Because you may not know, you can contract the disease anywhere from anyone, whether it's your family member, your work colleague, your church member, even in public transport. That is why we need to protect ourselves so that we will not contract the disease and we also protect others.
Thank you very much for joining us and for your time this afternoon. Joyce Afutu is the head of communications for NCCE. They are worried, they're concerned, and they're calling especially on schools, chop bars and restaurants, transport unions, etc., to insist that people observe the protocols before you allow them into your premises. You're watching The Pulse with me, Gifty Ando-Apia. We've done a lot on COVID-19, and we should, because the numbers keep going up, and this time we're seeing people dying as we have never seen before or in the previous wave. I'll take a very quick break. When we return, there's very interesting things happening in Parliament as well. Well, we understand that the Speaker has finally declared the NPP Society Mensabonso as the leader or the majority leader, and the NDC's Harry Naidrisu as the minority leader. Well, how is the minority taking it? Do they necessarily agree? Also, the Fobina MP got a chance to sit in the speaker seat. Well, I guess for about an hour. It's interesting, isn't it? We'll tell you more when we return from this break. Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, 5 people have been remanded into prison custody while the Odikro of Edubinsu Bia is on the run after the murder of a 28-year-old man over his alleged involvement in a robbery incident. Fuseni Suleiman was suspected to be part of a group of armed robbers that launched a series of robberies at fuel stations between Ebuboja and Swedru in the Ashanti region. The chief who suspected the man to be one of the robbers is alleged to have incited the youth of the community to lynch him. Police confirms the case to JoyNews. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin to JoyNews is Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin, I beg your pardon, and says that this is the 3rd time that a suspect has been lynched in this community.
At 6:17 p.m. on December 27, 2020, some of the workers here had gone to observe Maghrib prayer. Few of the remaining employees were engaged in different activities. But suddenly, 3 gunmen stormed the fuel station. 2 of them ran to the fuel attendants, while the other gave a warning shot. That was how the CCTV camera captured them. They robbed the fuel station. A moment later, Odikro of Edubinsu Bia Nana Asibe Boachi II arrived with his RAV4 car, perhaps to refuel. One of the robbers rushed to him, but the chief had to move immediately as the robber fired at one end of the car. No one was killed, but money was taken away. Few minutes after the robbery, Fuseni Suleiman arrived with his motorbike to refuel. But there was no one at the pump. He walked to where the attendants were being held hostage to draw their attention to his need for service. CCTV footage shows Fuseni was being told about the robbery incident. According to police, the Odikro, who was lucky enough to escape from the robbery, went home and informed the locals. Eyewitnesses say he picked his weapon as the youth of Edubinsu Bia blocked the road in expectation the robbers would use that stretch. Fuseni had left the fuel station towards Edubinsu Bia. It was about 6:30 p.m. The teeming youth suspected he was one of the robbers, dragged him and lynched him. An eyewitness account says the Odikro accused Fuseni as one who shot him at the fuel station.
We even requested we send the man to a fuel station to find out whether he was part of the robbers, but he resisted and insisted that he will not allow anyone to send the man anywhere because he is a thief and that he shot him at the fuel station. It is the chief and his people who used guns to hit him and beat him. The deceased is my nephew. He was riding a motorbike when they stopped him. He told them his uncle asked him to bring money to him. One of them took my number, called on phone and asked if I actually sent somebody. I told him yes. He also asked what the message was. I told him it was money. He further asked what the amount was and I quoted it. Then I overheard him on the phone speaking to the people around him that the man was not a thief. So I asked him what was the problem, but he said I should meet them at the Kodia police station. We immediately moved our car towards there. We contacted them again and they told us to come to Abuabuja rather. We got there and called, but nobody picked the calls.
Ti moi na chese me offers nko mobuno akuno.
An amount of 4,800 cedis and the motorbike Hussein was riding were nowhere to be found.
4,800. Scano say moto ana wateso. Any scanner is
Some of the boys who lynched him took part of the money, but those who were protecting him retrieved the motorbike and 2,850 cedis. Both are now with the police.
Police station. Say 2,850 any motor police for some Cordier police station.
The case was reported to the Cordier District Police Command. DSP Jeremiah Alale is a crime officer.
They have decided to take the law into their own hands. And even a chief should know better. Put yourself into their shoes and see how it feels. It's good to leave an armed robber to go scot-free than to kill an innocent person like this boy.
5 suspects who allegedly lynched Husseini are in prison remand. They will reappear at the Cordier District Court on 1st February 2021. But the Odikro and others are on the run. Police say they would continue to search for them to bring justice to the matter. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
Let's go to the courts now. It's been a week of heated argument over the quest to serve questions on the EC chairperson, Jean Mensah, and disagreement with Supreme Court justices. I'm talking about the election petition filed by the NDC's John Dramani Mahama, which is currently at the Supreme Court. Court correspondent Joseph Akable in the following report looks at the highlight of the proceedings this week and what to expect next week.
Refer to the broad scope of discovery.
Proceedings this week commence with a request for interrogatories to be served on the EC chairperson. This had 12 questions, including whether or not the NC assisted the commission in results transmission. The court, however, turned down the request.
In these interrogatories, in our respectful submission, will achieve the objective of narrowing down the issues. We would also realize that the questions posed seek to introduce through the back door new facts which are not anywhere in the petition before this court.
It's a well-established rule of the common law that a matter that may be refused in interrogatories may be allowed during cross-examination.
We are strictly bound to comply with CR90 and therefore we will not apply Order 22 of CR 47 of 2004 in these circumstances. We accordingly refuse to grant the application.
It then set 5 issues for determination and fixed firm timelines for witness statements to be filed. This did not sit well with Mr. Mahama's legal team as they maintained there were some outstanding issues to be dealt with.
The court shall sit on Tuesday, the 26th of January 2021 for hearing of this petition.
I do know about the schedule provided, but I also know that your lordships are here to administer justice, and that justice must not be sacrificed for expedition.
President Akufo-Addo's lawyers held a different view.
You don't come to court with a set of rules and you want to circumvent and obviate the rules by your own careless abandon. How do you come to court with a petition and you don't know that you have to file a witness statement? You don't know that you have to settle a memorandum of issues? I don't understand what is meant by sacrificing justice on the altar of expedition. Justice delayed is justice denied. So what is it? They are just not ready.
Mr. Mahama's team has not complied with the court's orders. The team has filed processes asking that the court halt its proceedings till it determines a request that it takes a second look at its decision not to allow the EC chairperson to be subjected to 12 questions. This will be brought to the attention of the justices of the Apex Court on Tuesday, January 26, same day the petition is billed to commence.
You certainly want to stick and stay with us here in the course of the, next week, because we'll bring you the details comprehensively like no other. Let's go to Parliament now, where the Speaker has declared the majority and minority leaders. He says Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu of the NPP is the majority leader. The NDC's Haruna Idrisu is the minority leader. My colleague Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is our parliamentary affairs correspondent, joining me right now with more. Hello, Joseph.
Gifty, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. It's good to see you. Let's begin with what necessitated this sort of declaration?
So there was a request from Frank Anodompre, who is the majority chief whip. Now we can comfortably say that without having to resort to, fresh terminology that we've all been trying to introduce over the last few weeks.
I know, right?
NDC caucus and NPP caucus, blah, blah, blah. So the majority chief whip, that's Frank Anodompre, made a request to the speaker. And in the course of the deliberations in the House today, he said that there's been situations where the leader on their side is not being acknowledged with the name that he actually deserves. And for some time now, Alban Bagbin, the speaker himself, has been referring to the two of them in terms of Asante Mensah Bonsu and Haruna Idrisu as majority leader, minority leader, respectively, and referring to those on his right as the majority and those on his left as the minority. So in the course of deliberations today, when the House was dealing with the approval of the business statement, which spells out what the House will do next week, he drew the Speaker's attention that he would want the appropriate name and designation for the leader on his side. And then, in the course of the conversation, he said that there'd been a well-orchestrated effort on the part of some MPs on the NDC side, including Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa and Hassan Suhini, to avoid the situation where Chairman will be referred to as the majority leader and their side will be referred to as the minority. In response to that, the Speaker reiterated the directive and the ruling he gave earlier that he sees a situation where Fomena MP, who is independent, plus NPP constitute the majority group, and he was emphatic in emphasizing that he didn't use caucus in that description and that he described them as a group, majority group, and then went on to make the point that in conclusion, well, Asante Mensah Bonsu is majority leader and Haruna Idrisu is minority leader.
But what's the difference between the group and the caucus?
And so Speaker Alban Bagbin attempted explaining that a group refers to a particular group of people who have a single agenda, and you can comfortably say they lie on one side or a similar thing defines them. So he gave examples that, for example, we could have regional caucuses in Parliament. We could have Ashanti Regional Caucus. We could have Greater Accra Regional Caucus. He went on to cite another example that we could have a Christian caucus in Parliament by virtue of the fact that all those individuals in that caucus are Christians. We could have the Muslim caucus by virtue of the fact that all of them are Christians. And so taking a cue from that, then his definition, or for that matter, definition of caucus would mean, for example, us having an NPP caucus and us having an NDC caucus, because they are all defined by virtue of the fact that they are NDC members or they are NPP members. But when you go on to add Fomena to NPP, then you can't describe them with something that defines them singularly. In this case, they're not all of the same political stock. So then in that sense, they are no longer caucus, but for that matter, a group. In this case, the NPP parliamentary group plus the independent Fomena, well, just to rephrase that, the NPP parliamentary caucus plus the Fomena MP then becomes the majority group in Parliament.
Interesting. That's pretty technical and might take a little while to sort of grasp.
In fact, to a certain extent, it's just semantics. It's just everyone.
It's the semantics I'm referring to. But I'm referring
playing on words.
Right. I'm referring to the semantics because it then plays a role in how the minority or whoever is not happy with this description perceives what is being said. So let's get to the minority's reaction. How did they take it?
I spoke to Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, who has been very forceful in the conversation that, as far as they are concerned, there is no majority group in the House. His reaction was that the Speaker has ruled. Everyone would have to abide by the ruling of the Speaker. They are still clear in their minds that when it comes to the representation of the various parties individually, there is no majority, there is no minority, and that they are getting the majority tag because Fomena is actually on their side. So he says they are okay with it, and then went on to make the point that it's about time we focused on more weightier issues than issues having to do with, who constitutes majority and who constitutes minority.
I totally agree with that. We've actually spent quite some time on this on this matter since the 8th Parliament started already. But was the minority leader around, Haruna Iddrisu himself? Did he comment?
On the floor, he showed virtually no emotion as Speaker Alban Bagbin put out those specific details that he is the minority leader and Chairman Sir is the majority leader. And it looks like they've all been clearing their minds on this for quite a while because the Speaker has repeatedly referred to them with those names. For those on the MPP side, they think this is something that was clear right from the beginning. I spoke to the MP for Mansfield Dubia, who made the argument that it didn't even require the Speaker's ruling today for everyone to be clearing their mind as far as where who lies. And they look forward to still building consensus with the NDC side and getting business done going forward.
I understand there was a press conference.
Yes, so Haruna Iddrisu, the MP for Tamale South, the minority leader, addressed the media briefing outside Parliament as soon after sitting adjourned. And the focus was on the list that's come to Parliament in terms of the ministers who've been appointed by President Akufo-Addo. The Speaker communicated that to Parliament officially earlier in the day and read out the list of all the MPs and referred the list to the Appointment Committee of Parliament. Haruna Iddrisu says they can expect that there will be rigorous scrutiny of those individuals who have been appointed to the various positions going into the next Parliament. He went on to make the point that he thinks this is a recycled list, not very much different. He says at a point in time with how the president had been governing the country over the last 4 years, they were expecting a reshuffle to bring some fresh energy into his administration. They didn't see that. And for him, even with the latest appointment, it's business as usual going forward. And, there have been quite a number of issues. There was the hint by the majority leader, Chairman Sabonsi, that they wanted to see a situation where the Appointments Committee would only vet these ministers after there is a reconstitution of the Appointments Committee that has been approved by the House based on the new standing orders. And for Haruna Iddrisu, they are going ahead with the vetting. In fact, when Chairman Sabonsi raised that on the floor, the Speaker Alban Bagbin eventually ruled that the Appointments Committee currently constituted should go ahead and do the vetting. So Haruna Iddrisu says they are ready to go ahead with that vetting going forward.
Well, so does it mean that this press conference was solely organized to address the list that the House had received?
Precisely. So that's what it was about.
I see.
The leader on the minority side expressing his thoughts on the list that had come out and describing it as a recycled one and indicating that they are ready to go ahead and interrogate it and take the MPs who've been appointed through the necessary vetting processes going forward.
When exactly does the Appointment Committee begin the process?
So we are waiting for that. So what's supposed to happen is that they are supposed to, first of all, meet as a committee to come to a determination on when they are vetting who. Haruna Iddrisu, who is part of the Appointment Committee, made the point that he looks forward to a situation where some ministries like health, finance will be prioritized in the vetting so as quickly as possible they are approved. But what will happen is there has to be that first meeting of the committee to draw up what that timetable will be. And the standing orders of Parliament actually requires that when there is a list of ministers to be vetted, Parliament issues a 14-day notice to members of the public and invite memoranda from individuals who have concerns or have suggestions on how the vetting should go. And it will be on that basis that the necessary vetting will begin. So we know Parliament is the master of its own rules, so they can abridge that and say, we are probably not inviting memorandum or we are inviting memorandum for the next 2 days. But if they decide to stick to that, the vetting process may only begin after 2 weeks of public inquiry, participation in the process going forward.
Interesting. Joseph, I want to have a bit more of a conversation with you, but we can listen to the minority leader, Haruna Iddrisu. We'll bring that shortly. But Joseph, just walk me through a little bit of what happened in Parliament where the Fomena MP got to sit in the seat of the Speaker.
And so in the course of the conversation, the House was actually debating a statement that had been read by the minority leader, Haruna Iddrisu, eulogizing former President Jerry John Rawlings, who died recently and is to be buried soon. And he made a point about how a lot of them had learned from him and looked up to him in politics for several years now. There were contributions to that from MPs on both the majority and minority side. And in the course of that conversation, Speaker Alban Bagbin announced that the second deputy speaker would take the chair, Andrea Mokwesiama, because he wanted to get up from the seat, and the first deputy speaker, Joyce, was unavailable at the time. So the former MP took the seat and then invited MPs to contribute to that particular statement having to do with Jerry John Rawlings. He was in the seat for well about 45 minutes, and then Speaker Alban Bagbin returned and he handed over to Speaker Alban Bagbin. But that was the first time that the former MP had the opportunity to chair proceedings, even after he was elected to the position on the morning of 7 January 2021.
How did his term go, if I should put it that way? I mean, how was his interaction with the MPs, and how did it differ from what perhaps Parliament knows?
He actually didn't have too much of a tough time, because it was just a solemn conversation about the former President Jerry John Rawlings. But the interesting bit is, most of the times when Professor Michael Quay was Speaker in the 7th Parliament, and he has to get up and he asked either the first deputy, Joyce Ewusu, or the second deputy, then Alban Bagbin, to take over the seat. Usually they conduct business until the end of the day. Funny enough, in the case of Alban Bagbin, when he announced that we're seeing a situation where the former MP was taking over, about 45 minutes later, he returned to steer the affairs in the chair, even up until the House eventually adjourned sitting up until Tuesday at 10 a.m. The House was still unable to deal with the motion having to do with the school fees of tertiary level students, which was actually on the agenda for today, because the indication was that the conversation around Mr. Rawlings' passing had actually dragged for quite a while. So that debate was moved to next week, Tuesday, when the House will then debate and go ahead and approve or reject that particular motion.
We'll see how that goes. I'll take your final words. But Joseph, hang on. Let's listen to the minority leader when he addressed that press conference earlier today.
Some law, but it will be very brief. Now they say I can't remove that chair. Then bring a mask. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, I'm supported by my colleagues. Just to assure you that we are not an obstructionist group. We are very positive, and we think that the President's letter of 21st January 2021 submitting to Parliament list of his ministers for his new government deserves the urgent attention of the Appointments Committee. But noting what has been submitted to Parliament, it only reminds us in the minority group that President Nana Addo Dankwa, if he was to set up a 1D1F in recycling, he would be a very good entrepreneur in that enterprise. We just see recycled list, no new impetus, no new thinking, no new innovation. It reminds us of Ghana still living in 1997. The country has come very far, and ministers should not just be comfortable. I don't want to believe that President Nana Addo Dankwa does not have the courage and political will to reshuffle, because you all witnessed what happened in the last 4 years. He just couldn't do that. And even at an opportunity of change of government, he doesn't appear ready to do just that. So there's no new impetus, no new hope, and as I've said, we've just seen a recycled list. What struck us most as a group, even though we interrogate those matters at the Appointments Committee, is the ambiguous creation of a new Ministry of Public Enterprises. Why? Ministries themselves are public enterprises, and state-owned institutions are public enterprises.
not a while ago, he came to Parliament to pass a new legislation putting all those enterprises under a new legislation. One would have thought that he would have used the rendition of that law, Act 990, to create the new Ministry of Public Enterprises. Suffice it to add that we are not dissatisfied with the cut, but the cut will be better measured when we have the full list and full complement of his ministers. But we are ready to interrogate not just the CV, but the record of his appointees. What they must do clearly is to make sure that copies of handing over notes are made available to us as required by the Presidential Transition Act, Act 845. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So that's what Joseph Opoku Gakpo was referring to. You've heard it from the horse's own mouth, if I should put it that way. Let me wrap up with Joseph Opoku Gakpo. Hello, Joseph.
Gifty, I can hear you.
Right, so we've seen what has happened today. Essentially the conversation or the debate on the motion could not come off, which you have said should happen on Tuesday. What more should we expect in the coming week?
You know, there were a number of issues that came up on the floor today.
Okay.
For example, the Tamale North Member of Parliament, Hassan Suhini, requested that the issue having to do with the babies who'd gone missing and were allegedly stolen at some hospitals in Yoko, investigating that. He thinks that regardless of the fact that there are no ministers, Parliament should be interested in that issue and interrogate officials of Yoko and get more details on it and be able to follow up and ensure that the right thing is done. That wasn't the only request. Another NDC MP requested that with the rising COVID-19 cases that we are seeing, and particularly the issue having to do with the Noguchi Memorial Institute and some allegations that some tests were being allegedly falsified, as went around on social media, Parliament should take interest and interrogate the necessary officials there and get the details on what exactly is being done to safeguard the lives of Ghanaians. Those two requests actually went through with the expectation that one way or the other, there will be a direction on how the House can begin interrogating these issues even before the ministers are appointed. Because, you know, per the requirements of the standing orders, when it comes to the floor of the House itself, there has to be a minister who has to respond to issues. And not just that, when it comes to the workings of various committees, they can delve into matters at the level of the committee. But even now, there aren't other committees of Parliament being set up and all. So the expectation is that one way or the other, leadership will give a directive on how going forward some of these issues can be dealt with even before the committees are established and even before ministers get appointed. And so we're waiting to see how the House will deal with some of those specific issues going into next week. But next week, the focus mainly is on the House approving the selection of other committees, including committees, members of the ECOWAS Parliament and members of the African Union Parliament, and a number of others. But there were further announcements in relation to COVID-19 in Parliament today by the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, asking MPs to take the COVID-19 situation more seriously. And he indicated that from next week, Parliament will be going virtual, so that then from everywhere, MPs can monitor proceedings and participate in proceedings. And he gave the indication that they are considering a number of other venues for sitting, including the tent where the inauguration of the president eventually happened. So all of that is likely to unfold next week, even as the House takes more stringent measures to avoid a situation of the spread of COVID-19 in the House.
We'll see how that goes and how they get to vote virtually. Joseph, thank you very much. Joseph Opoku Gakpo is our parliamentary affairs correspondent. Gary L. Smith is standing by with sports on the Pulse Tuesday.
Thank you to Gifty and the rest of the crew for bringing us the news. Time now, though, for the sport on Pulse. I'm Gary L. Smith. Today, we look at 5 defeats, 3 draws, just 1 win, 4 goals scored, 10 conceded, and they are bottom of the Ghana Premier League table. Things are falling apart at Legon Cities FC. The newcomers are in action tonight. They clash with Ash Gold in a Week 10 encounter at the Accra Stadium. Ahafo is here with me in studio to look at the game and to look at the fortunes of the team that was supposed to, for many of us, be in our top 10 or for some top 5. Legon Cities are in action. What should we expect from them today?
I think that's a difficult question to answer. And even fans of the club and players probably might not know what to expect each game because you never quite know which Legon Cities will turn up. And it's been quite disappointing so far this season. There's been games where they've put in a fight, especially in that Wafa win, their first win of the season. And then there's been games where they just played like a team without a soul when they faced Olympics, and even that loss against the Busia Drafts that was on the TV. But it's just been really poor from them. And it's not even about the investment, but it's just about the nature of the performances. Performances have been so bad that even after one of their games, the officials told the bus driver to leave the players behind. And that should tell you how bad a performance is for, officials to react like that. Because this is a club that is a fresh investment. There's been so much money pumped in. And, I'm close to one of the owners, and I'm not allowed to mention the figures, but it's high-level money. Millions are being pumped into this team. So if after the first quarter of the Ghana Premier League, you are bottom, and your aim is to be a top club in Africa, then you know that there's a big gap between what you want to achieve and where you are right now.
So, Ashgold, on the other hand, well, they started the season in a wobbly fashion, and then they just launched. We find them in the top 5.
Yeah, and a draw would be enough tonight to take them to the top of the Premier League table, at least for tonight.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Serkovic would be gunning up his boys to pick up a win. They've been the form team, started a bit slowly, 2 draws, but then they've really picked up from there. And they're the highest scorers in the Premier League right now, 18 goals. But then, interestingly, they've conceded 11. That's more than the opponents that they are facing tonight, Legon Cities. And so even though they are good going forward, they might have to work on their defense. We saw that game against Ahafo when they conceded 2 as well. So that might just be a bit of a problem that they do have. But they're almost like the Manchester United right now in the league. You just don't want to go into a lead against them because they've picked 12 points from losing positions already this season. So it's not going to be easy to beat them. A lot of teams have managed to do that this season. So it's going to be a tough one. And for Ashanti Gold, there's extra motivation to go on top of the Premier League.
So that game is at 6, and not even the appointment of Bashir Hayford has turned the fortunes of Legon Cities. But let's go through what other fixtures you should be looking out for in the Ghana Premier League this weekend. So that's tonight's game. It's first. Berekum Chelsea will be playing against Ahafo. Chelsea have had a torrid season. Olympics, who are doing quite well, will face top of the table Karela United. Dreams FC versus Liberty Professional, 2 teams whose seasons we don't quite understand yet. Mediama versus Inter Allies. Mediama have famously scoring issues. They've got Ahmed Toure, but is he going to play? We'll find out. I'm not sure if his work permit issues have been sorted at the moment. Ibushia Dwarfs will be playing Wafa, whose owner has just died recently, and so for them, every game is sort of a tribute. Elmina Sharks play Bechem United, and 11 Wonders play King Faisal, who are down there with Legon Cities on the bottom. And Asante Kotoko will be playing Adriana Stars. We'll be having that game live on Joy FM on Sunday evening. So, pick of the matches, Asante Kotoko, Adriana, of course.
Yeah, that certainly would be a big one. And for Kotoko, with how things are so tight at the top of the table, you do have Kotoko, who are just 1 point behind Karela, but then you have, Adriana Stars, who are just 3 points also behind the top of the table, and they are lying in 7th. So even a win could possibly see Adriana end up as top of the league table. So there's added, possible incentive there in that game. But for Asante Kotoko, it's more of consistency, and they're just struggling to score goals right now. If you do look at the Premier League table, they're the second lowest scorers right now. So they need to find a way of scoring, and it has to be someone apart from Kwame Poku, because if he's not scoring, anyone else is not scoring. But it's also a similar situation for Adriana Stars. Yahya Mohammed, he seems to be scoring all of their goals, and he's won 11 points for Adriana so far with his 6 goals that he scored so far. So it's going to be a good game. Kwame Poku versus Yahya Mohammed. I think 2 of our arguably best strikers that we do have in the league right now. So it's one that we're looking forward to.
Right. So in terms of the top scorer race in the Ghana Premier League, it's a player who has left the country at the moment, Lemoti Aglo from Wafa, who is having 8 goals as well. Yeah, Mohammed has 5 goals. And then in between them, you've got Dewisi Taylor, who's got 8 as well. And then Kwame Poku, who is on 7.
6.
Who's on 6?
6, yeah.
6, yeah, so 6-5. So 8-8, 6-5. We had a table. We showed you that earlier this week. I'm sure we'll be showing that later on Prime. But essentially, those are the fixtures you should be looking out for. 11 Wonders are a team who are sustained between being very good and not too good. But if you look at Karela United, I mean, their home form obviously has been great. And this time they are going to be playing away. Does this change anything for them?
Well, I think for Karela, what makes them more dangerous is that now you don't just have to think about, Dewisi Taylor. There's also Kwame Boateng, who has picked up a lot of form. And then they have Ofe in midfield as well, who also popped up with a couple of goals. So the goals are coming in from, different places. So it's difficult to say that we're going to just man-mark Dewisi Taylor out of this game. And so I think that's what has made them a much more difficult side to face. But, championships, as they do say, are always won at home. Once you get something on the road, that's good enough. Yeah. But once you're winning everything at home, that makes you, tighter.
Especially in the Ghana Premier League.
Yeah, and you look at them and not everyone seems to be winning so easily. You look at the last game, they scored 4 goals. And they seem to be scoring for fun right now. It's all about confidence and the type of games and the moment that we are in. Football seems to be springing a number of surprises all across the world. We're seeing new teams leading tables. Teams that are not really, usual candidates are now leading. So it could possibly be one of those seasons. So I'm sure they're taking it one game at a time. But they're one team that we should certainly keep an eye on.
Right. So there's Great Olympics, I believe. Yes. And Olympics themselves have had quite an interesting season. They've got Yao Prekon and also Godwin Atram, who are currently the new managers of the side. They've started well, and clearly coaching was an issue, which is why they went that couple of games without getting something when their previous coach, Anna Walker, got ill. Yeah. But the question is whether they can maintain it going forward.
For Olympics, I think they've graduated from relegation candidates last season, the truncated one, to out-core title pretenders this season. And they've been in and around the top 4, and they've dropped a bit. But I still think, if you look at the league table, 2 match days, they win 2 games, they could get back into the title race. But that's a good place for them to be, especially considering where they are coming from. I think that their recruitment has been good. It's rather unfortunate there's been a break in momentum due to the ailment of their coach, Anna Walker. But I love what the ex-players have done, Godwin Atram and Olele Kinson and all of them coming in to help, Yao Prekon coming in to help the club in a difficult period. But you look at Olympics and they're doing what is required of them to stay in the league. And so far, they have 7 points at home, 7 points away. They wouldn't be extraordinary in both, but they are picking up enough to be able to survive in the league. And I think that they would be good enough. They probably wouldn't be in the relegation zone this season.
Right. Thank you, Oreku, for the preview for Week 10 of the Ghana Premier League. Also, go to myjoyonline.com. You will see that Asante Kotoko have issued a statement about Muniru Sule, the brother of Sule Muntari. They've terminated the contract with him. They are saying that they didn't pay him anything throughout the time he was there, and they are not paying him anything in severance fees. And so, essentially, I'm not sure if that means he just came to be part of the team, Muniru Sule as well. But whatever it is, we'll find out later. Obviously, you are going to hear a lot about the behind-the-scenes reasons why he left the team. But once it's not official, we will not want to speculate. Thank you, Oreku, again. And that's the sport for now. Please follow the rest of our programming. Tonight, we have a few details on Prime and then on Fan Zone. Then tomorrow, on JoyNews Room, Oreku will be here to let you know what's trending, and then on Sunday as well. I'm Gary Al Smith, and that's the sport for now. The news will be finishing momentarily.
It's been a long week, hasn't it? Well, we thank God he's brought us this far. But this is where I wrap up. There's more news at myjoyonline.com. I'll urge you to go on there and check it out for yourself. Share the link with your friends. But Let's Talk Showbiz is how we wrap up the entire show. I want you to stay for it. My name is Gifty Ando-Apia. It's always a pleasure serving you. This weekend, we have a comprehensive coverage of the burial or the funeral, I should say, of former President Jerry John Rawlings. This is where you want to be. And this is Joy News. We bring it to you comprehensively. Have a great weekend and enjoy.